Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, we'll be talking about Polish Tech Tree tank destroyers. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a bit of time, you would already know that they are confirmed coming into the game, and they will be featuring the same mechanic that they have on World of Tanks PC. What exactly is that mechanic? Well, the further you are away from your enemy, the less damage you deal, and the closer you are, the more damage you deal. So if you have 500 max damage, if you're 250 meters away, you might only deal 100 damage or 200 damage. It's a very interesting balance mechanic. I actually think it's cool because it rewards you for playing this tank aggressive and it punishes you for camping in it. I think this will be great for players like me, maybe not so good for players that aren't too experienced with tank destroyers, but it's going to be a good line for people to learn how to play tank destroyers aggressive and not camp as much in them. I'm very excited to see how Wargaming is going to end up balancing the armor. But we can see here an official post from Wargaming. And they said, at the end of summer, we will have a new tech tree, Polish tank destroyers. Now, the end of summer is September. That is what most people will agree. In other words, we are expecting to see this line released within the next 2 months, which is pretty nice. We basically have a confirmed release date, and that's at latest 2 months. So, yeah, we have a new line coming into the game very quickly. I'm interested to see how testing is going to work, because if this line is coming in at the end of summer, which is September, what that means is that Wargaming us to get all these vehicles tested and ready for release within the next 2 months. And I haven't even seen these vehicles enter testing yet, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they end up balancing these vehicles, if they even enter testing. Let's hope they do, because yeah, I don't want another E50M or 113 GFT rolling into the battlefield day one. But the point being, they are coming out very soon. Tier 8 through 10 will have a new mechanic. Here is its essence. Numbers are not final, and how it will look like. The closer the TD is to the enemy, the more damage per shot will be dealt. So we can see the exact numbers that they have currently. 3 bars above the range meter equals 100% damage, and then the further you are away, does the less damage. So we can see in this photo, there's only 2 bars that are filled, and then this photo, it's kind of cut off, but there's 3 bars in this photo. Point being, 2 bars means that you'll deal about, what, 70% damage, and then 1 bar, you'll deal 40% damage, 0 bars, 30%, and then if you 3 bars less than 70 meters, you will deal 100% damage. Now, the first thing that I wanted to talk about here is the fact that the Tier 9 appears to be the Tier 10. We can see 2 photos of a Polish tank destroyer. Now, I know that this is not the Kilana, the Tier 8, because that vehicle is more rounded. I know it's not the Tier 7, the Tier 6, or 5, so it is 100% either the Tier 9 or Tier 10. Wargaming is only showing us photos of the back of the tank, though, and I think they're doing this because they don't want us to know that the Tier 9 is actually the Tier 10 yet. But the reason that I'm able to confirm this is for 2 different areas. First of all, if we zoom in real close to the photo here, take a look at this box here. We can very clearly see that there's a circle like this and then like this, okay? Remember that. We can see it here too. There's an oval and then it's a square, okay? Then we can also see that there is a little commander's vision port that comes out like this. We can see that on both photos here. It loops around the outside of the tank. Now, if we make our way over to Google, we can see the Tier 9 and Tier 10 on World of Tanks PC. The Tier 10 is the Błyskawica. I never know how to pronounce it. 2 things that we should mention about the Tier 10. First of all, look at the back here. The hatch is 2 squares, both completely different from what we just saw in the previous photo. Second of all, there's no rounded vision hatch here on either side of the tank that comes off the edge. And we can see that. There's no hatch on either side of the vehicle that comes off. So, if we take a look at photos of the Tier 9, right there, there's the rounded hatch that comes right off to the side. And if we find a photo of the back of the vehicle, you can see right there is that circle, oval port on the back. So very clearly, we can see, and this is a better picture here, that is the exact same design here and here as you just saw here. So this is very clearly the Gąkawica, which is the Tier 9. What's interesting is that there's a legendary camo on the tank. Now, if we go to Blitz How many tier 9s in Blitz that are tech trees have legendary camos on day 1 release? The Conqueror does not have a legendary camo, the Vickers CR does not have a legendary camo, the Centurion's M1 doesn't, Conway has one, but it was released way after the 4005's multiple tier 10 camos. The Tortoise does not have one, the SU-122 doesn't, the Object 704 doesn't, the ST-1 doesn't. Point being, every single tier 9 that has been released has never had a legendary camo, which means that tank we're looking at is the tier 10. The tier 9 on World of Tanks PC is the tier 10 in Blitz. And it's not that far-fetched of an idea, because the M5yo and M6yo are swapped on PC. The M6yo is actually the tier 10, or the M6yo is actually the tier 9 on PC, and the M5yo is the tier 10. Now, it's weird for me to think that they're opposite, because in my eyes, the Bliskavica does look like the tier 10. This tank looks a little bit more rudimentary compared to this. And I think most of you would agree this tank looks a bit beefier. So it's weird that Wargaming decided to swap them, if they even, maybe this tank isn't coming out at all, but I think it is. I think that both of these vehicles will be released, but they're going to be swapped. But yes, this tank will be the tier 10 in our version of the game. A fun little fact that you probably haven't seen anywhere but on my channel. Now we break into something else that is also very, very important, and that is the DPM of this tank. We can see 6.2 seconds right there. That is the reload that this vehicle has. I would assume this is with gun rammer, but even if it's not, let's just say it is 6.2 second reload, okay? And then we have the damage mechanic. Again, the closer you are, the more damage you deal. Here's the problem. 6.2 seconds is an insanely quick reload, and it leads me to believe that this tank is not going to have nearly as much damage per shot as people think. On World of Tanks PC, these vehicles are sitting at 800 damage per shot at tier 10. Obviously, Blitz values, that's more like 650, 640. But still, that's a lot of alpha. If this tank had around 600 alpha in Blitz with a 6.2 second reload, then that would be, you do 60 seconds divided by 6.2, which is going to be just about 9 point, yeah. And then we multiply that by, 600 alpha. Yeah, that's not right. There's no world that this tank, 70 meters or less, will have 5,800 DPM. I refuse to believe that. So there's no way that currently the tank is being balanced with a high caliber gun. Even the Badger, which is one of the highest DPM tanks in tier 10 right now, is sitting at a 7.41 second reload with 460 alpha. If we look at vehicles which have even higher DPM and less alpha, like the SU-122-54, this tank has a 6 second reload with 4,200 DPM at tier 9. So, what exactly can we think about the alpha of this vehicle? Well, my guess is that it's going to feature a similar damage per shot to the SU-122-54. I can't imagine it's going to be any more, though. Even if this tank has 440 alpha, let's go back to the calculator. Let's say it has 440 alpha, and we multiply that by the 9.6 rate of fire it would have, that would still be 4,220 DPM at 70 meters. So, I don't know. I really don't know what the alpha is going to be. My guess is around 400 to 420 damage per shot. Not nearly as high as the World of Tanks PC ones. And I actually think that's a good thing. I'd like a lower alpha tank destroyer that features a faster reload and is able to punch out high damage or high damage per minute, and then the further you are away, less damage. But it's going to be really weird, because if you're dropping off, huge amounts of damage at distance, at 150 meters away, you're losing 70% of your damage. So if we, pull out the calculator here and we say it is 420 alpha, and then we multiply that by 0.7, your actual damage per shot is going to be like, well, actually we need to do this minus 420. It's going to be like 120 damage per shot. I mean, that's nothing. Yeah, that's basically times 3. Yeah, so it's going to be like maybe 140 damage per shot to 150. Like, that's awful. And even at 70% distance, or 70% damage, you're still going to be looking at a 30% damage reduction. So at 70% damage, if we do it again, 420 multiplied by, sorry, my brain's dying. It would be 0.3. You're looking at 126 damage reduction minus 420. 294 damage per shot. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Basically, you're going to be hemorrhaging damage anything past 70 meters. And I don't know how they're going to balance it. I really don't. I can't imagine they're going to give this tank 500 alpha or something high, because if you're within 70 meters at a 6.2-second reload, that would be like 6,000 DPM. You would literally kill a mouse in like 20 seconds with adrenaline. That's just dumb. There's no world that would be the case. So I think we're looking at around 400 damage per shot, and we're going to be looking at the tier 9 being the tier 10. It's interesting. We'll have to see exactly what comes of this, but you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to see more content like this in the future, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.